Okay, go ahead.
Okay, good morning, Niskayuna. We are at the Economic Development, Historic Preservation, and Environmental Conservation Committee meeting on June 7th, and we will start with attendance.
Okay. Next to me, I have Trish Bardiami, Clark Henry, Chairman Delarada, Attorney Elena Finnan, Matt Yetto, Supervisor Vitioni, Beth Greenwood, Kevin Walsh, Dart Strayer, and myself.
Very good, and that brings us to the minutes of May 3rd, 2024.
Except the minutes with one correction, you could add them to the attendees list.
Okay.
Sorry, we missed you, Kevin.
Yeah. As a, it's good enough before I was outside meeting, we started with that document. So.
Any other additions or changes? Seeing that, I will move to accept. Oh no, second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
And that passes. And that brings us to the resolutions.
Okay, so I'm not exactly what the timeline is for the special meeting, but trying to get the public access easement for Robert Girolamo on there, because he's trying to record that very soon. Yeah, am I supposed to get the resolutions to you? Was I supposed to get to the resolutions to you by yesterday, or just the item names?
For the special meeting, you got me the resolution.
Yeah, I did.
So we're good on that.
Yeah, okay.
And then the items were so I could do the agenda for the agenda meeting.
Okay.
That goes out today. That's fine.
Yeah, that made sense. But I actually had Betsy Ryan on the special meeting too, and I didn't get that resolution.
That one.
So I'll move that one to the
Yeah,
regular meeting. Yeah, I gotcha. So for the special meeting, we have the Robert Girolamo acceptance of a public access easement. This was recommended by the planning board. In the future, if the land to the west of this gets subdivided, there's already kind of an easement there. And it would allow basically the bottom of Leishik Hill Road, basically to be able to get a walking path all the way to Birchwood eventually. So this is just a piece of a connection, but if future subdivisions go, would be important. Not proposing to pave it unless we're able to get more easement, because otherwise it'd just be a piece of pavement in the forest. So, but laying the groundwork so that if we ever need to make those connections in the future, we'll have a piece. And then B is a similar thing. It's a public access easement from Betsy Ryan. We'll move back to the regular meeting, but this is an access easement along Van Antwerp Road. We've had a lot of discussions from the Crimson Oak and Van Antwerp Road people about the walkability of this section of Van Antwerp Road, and this was a subdivision reviewed by the planning board where they required a multi-use public access easement along the front of the road in case we're ever able to put a sidewalk or multi-use path along Van Antwerp. So both really good things, making way for the future if we're ever able to make walking and biking connections. And then the third resolution I have is actually kind of, I think Beth and me were doing them together, and it's not actually going to end up coming from this committee, but was the resolution to appoint an IT intern. And Beth and I both kind of finished that yesterday together, so I think that one's all good as well. That's Jad. He's my videographer for planning board, and he's willing to help with IT.
And he was an IT intern last summer as well, so he's very useful.
Yep, and very good at fixing things that I break, as well as other people. So for the regular meeting, we'll move the Betsy Ryan easement down into there. The big news is that Kevin, who has been the most amazing planning board chair the world has ever known.
No laws, that's the best part about it.
Probably the longest tenure.
So I would like, I'm sure it's probably going to be literally sponsored by everyone, but would like to put a resolution for recognizing him for his service. He sent me his resume, so I have things I can work from there, and I will also be using some of my own knowledge from working with him. And I said this is the planning board, but I'm going to say it here too. When I moved from Alaska, I didn't realize how different planning and laws were between the two states. I mean, I probably should have, but I was very optimistic. And Kathy was only able to help me for a day or two. So this man here is really the one that helped me become the planner in the town of Niskayuna and showed me how everything works and has always been there and has been such an amazing person to work with and also such an amazing leader to the planning board. And he says very lightly, it'll be fine. I'm really not sure. But we've got, like, I've got lots of good things to say. We want to do the resolution at the town board. We want to do a resolution at the planning board. And then I also want to do like maybe like a little cupcake party or something, not adjacent to a meeting, because I think that this warrants its own time, out of the gazebo or something, which I'll schedule with you.
Can we reject his application?
Thank you, Laura, for kind words as always appreciated.
Well, they're meant from the heart.
Yeah.
Don't know what to do without you, Kevin.
Yes, thank you, Kevin. It's gonna be a big hole. No question.
6.5 years of continuous service with the town. That's all.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's
Only 25.5 on the planning board though.
you're on the zoning board.
Yeah,
You
zoning-
can
zoning board
talk about that
appeals.
all the time, but yeah.
It's a quarter century. Planning.
So so his last day is the 30th of June, right?
Yep.
June didn't have to, yeah. So we'll,
The financial periods, that's what make it easy.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate that.
so we can do the resolution at the end of the town board. Then the July meeting will be the planning board. So I'm thinking sometime early July for a party.
Already, I'm talking about what lays out the summer, here it goes.
And if anybody else can think of anything, like it's pretty rare. The only other person I can think of that, do you remember Bill Lee? He was on the CAC for I think like
Oh, yeah.
30 years. So yeah, that was
I'm not even trying to compete with that.
that was, I mean, Derek took over for Bill Lee. But that was a pretty big loss to the CAC. He'd been there on the CAC for
Yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of knowledge.
yeah, he had a lot of knowledge. You're not off the hook because I would still call him when he left me, so I might still the second resolution we have is for NYSERDA. I mentioned this, I think, at the last meeting. We submitted to NYSERDA for our energy code training and we were hoping to get the $10,000 reward. They just hadn't let us know. I did get an email verifying that we are granted a $10,000 grant. And I have been working with the CAC on the Quiet Niskayuna initiative and sent it to Supervisor Kusumi and Ray and Pete at the highway to see if they'd be interested in purchasing electric lawn and tree maintenance equipment with this $10,000. That is an item that will basically automatically get approved by NYSERDA. It reduces greenhouse gas emissions and it's also healthier for our employees. And I wasn't sure exactly how they feel about it, but I talked to them yesterday and they're willing to put together a $10,000 electric maintenance equipment package and move forward. So that's really great. They got a couple things that they're thinking about and I'm gonna try and get them a catalog so they can see what they have, see what they like, and put together what I told him, and Ray knows this, he's really, really good about it, is like make it 10,001, like don't leave a single penny on the thing, like, you know, I'll put the dot, whatever. So he knows, so he's gonna absolutely max that one out. And then we'll have a list of things that we will purchase that we can submit to NYSERDA, and then that'll roll into the highway department. And it also helps, it's the Quiet Niskayuna initiative because they're also quieter.
That's a great start. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I was
Yeah.
really excited that the highway was willing to work with me on that too. But they are, so.
Yeah, because it's gonna be, I imagine, a big difference, right? And getting used to that equipment and the charging and all that power, what kind of power it has, but
Ray was mentioning it in his meeting yesterday and he said they already use an electric, like a tree trimmer that they already have on one truck. And he was foreseeing that, like, especially for like the blowers that they carry around and a bunch of that kind of stuff where they don't use it in as long a period of time, but they use it kind of that,
Yeah.
you know, in fits and starts, that
Sure.
would be a good starting point.
Yeah.
So he was actually very
Yeah,
excited about it.
Great. I'm really happy about that too. Yeah, he's thinking like they have weed whackers,
Yeah.
like handheld
Yeah.
lawn, leaf blowers, all those types of
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
That's great.
And we'll just, he likes Milwaukee, so if
Yeah.
we can get the Milwaukee ones, we'll just pick a brand. That way all the batteries are interchangeable.
Yeah.
And then the sleeve starts to get a little greener. So.
Excellent.
I've been working on them.
Letter F is a resolution authorizing the submittal of a Climate Smart Communities Grant application. I believe that Grants Gateway, it's not actually Grants Gateway, but the CFA is the end of July. So I want to make sure that I'm out in front of that and I have a resolution from the town board that'll authorize resubmittal of the sidewalks grants for Cornelius and Plum, or not Plum, Cornelius and Birchwood and Palmer, I think. We submitted that last year and did a debriefing with them, and the concept is fine, but we did not do a proper greenhouse gas emissions calculation offset. So that's a fairly standard thing that we could do, and then resubmit it, and that way all that hard work that we did last year, you know, should count this year. Yeah. So I'm hoping.
Is there a percent match on this one? or-
It's the same,
It's the
and so we set it aside in the
Yep,
budget.
okay, that's why I was.
So I'm wondering if, I mean, if you need to spend a little bit of that on sidewalks this year, but the majority of it we just go through the next year. Letter G is a resolution appointing a member to the tree council. Oh, yeah. I got talking and I forgot to, so Erin has her resume. We're trying to, follow the policy.
Just enacted.
Yeah, that we were talking about at the last meeting, and she can send it out to you guys. I believe the lady's first name is Beth. But she came to the last tree council meeting. She is a master gardener. She just retired from, I think, GE and has the time now and would be interested in joining the tree council. Tons of knowledge of plants and trees and very kind. So I'll have Erin send the policy out, but if everybody's fine with that, I mean, the resume out, if everybody's fine with that, I put the resolution on. Tree council still needs a couple people.
Excellent.
And then I have this as tentative because we're still working on it, but if we are able to get, decide on the appointment of the replacement of the chairperson for the planning board and zoning commission, we can have that on the end of this month too. I know we have a couple of names that we're looking at and a couple of people we've asked, so we'll work through that. And then if we're ready at the end of the month, we'll put something on. It's sensitive.
And that brings us to D, the discussions.
So just quickly, I know I have an email outstanding to Laura Cardino. She's been asking me where the town stands on hosted versus unhosted, but the planning board's been working pretty hard on the short-term rental regulations. I got comments from a couple people and I will have them all synthesized by the end of the day today so that we can have a code that we can theoretically call for a public hearing on for in July. And I think the big thing that we're looking at is limiting the ones where no one lives in them, that they're just buying the house in order to rent it solely as a rental property.
How do we know that?
Yeah, so all Airbnbs under the code that we're proposing to adopt would have to be registered.
Short-term rentals.
Yeah, oh, sorry, short-term rentals. Yes, and yes, and so you'd have to, like, you can check. I mean, essentially a hosted short-term rental is going to have to belong to the person who lives there. Like it's like a homestead or whatever, like, you know, it'll have to be where they claim their residency. Yeah. And that'll be the distinguishing between the hosted and the unhosted. And then unhosted, I think we were looking at limiting them to very small zoning districts in the town of Niskuna. Just mostly kind of commercial zoning districts. And then the hosted, it's currently proposed to be written as basically any residential zoning district but there's a lot of rules for a hosted. Like all of the parking related to it has to be off street. You know, it has specific stuff for noise ordinance, which I said, I think sometimes that can be hard to enforce, but we should probably have it in there, to give it a try. Got a number of checks and balances on the hosted, and the other thing that we talked about is that if you're only hosting a small or portion of your home, it's unlikely that you're gonna have those big parties because the owners living in the house should be there. So, I mean, hopefully the people that are thinking about partying aren't gonna wanna party with the owner of the home right there, so.
Planning board members get back to you on the draft. as well?
Two. But, I have good comments from both of them, and I will, I'll put those in.
Two besides me or two?
Two besides you, yeah. And then
Great.
total. And then I know that Laura and probably the majority of Mountain Keys don't want to distinguish between the hosted and the unhosted. And I understand they feel like there's still going to be problems with the hosted Airbnb. And so I would expect those comments, and I'm, you know, still open to listening and seeing. But I do not want to create a code that bans it outright, because when you like take away, that's when your codes typically get struck down in court. So like I want to have a balance of like protecting the neighborhood, making sure that if it is done, it's done in a very small and non-impactful way, but not like fully taking the right away from people, because we don't want to adopt a code that is gonna then get taken away, because that's not gonna protect them either. It's gonna take us a whole nother year to write another one, and then there won't be any code in place while we're writing another one. So that's why, at least at the beginning, I want to try and do a balanced approach. So that's my recommendation. Obviously, the planning board and the town board can both overrule, you know, the code that we submit, but that's kind of where we're at with it right now. Do you want to add anything about that?
No, I thought it looked pretty good. I mean, it's close.
Yeah, the North Elba code was good. We had to modify it because they're a seasonal town and we're a bedroom community, so they're gonna regulate differently. But it was a good place to start, and that was the recommendation from the Capital Region Transportation Committee, so.
What was kind of interesting is they just interviewed the supervisor of North Elba on NPR yesterday as I was driving. And they talked about this specific issue in Lake Placid and North Elba and how they are basically the standard for the country. When they wrote it, they became the standard.
It's probably like CRTC recommends.
I thought it was kind of interesting because we're at that place and.
Yeah, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to make sure that it doesn't negatively impact our residents.
When do you think we'll have a resolution for this?
Yeah, so if the planning board likes the code's concept, and it'll actually be written to the point where you can, you know, share it with the public, they could call for a public hearing in the beginning of July with a possible recommendation to the town board at the end of July. So I would think that you have to, yes. Code amendment, zoning code updates. Yeah, they have to do, seeker. No. To do seeker and public hearing there and a public hearing.
Yeah, I'm hoping with the CAC, we will be able to get it through at the next meeting.
Mhm. Yeah.
Have you started that process?
I started it at the seeker last month, but yeah, I'll have to, I don't want to send out a coordinated review with the code that wasn't ready to be reviewed, but as long as the planning board's happy with it, I'll start the coordinated review basically on Monday. Well, probably Tuesday, Monday.
Probably just have an internal discussion on the process and so forth.
Okay.
So probably no sooner than September.
I think
Possibly August.
we made just a brief timeline, and it's, yeah, I mean, it's early fall. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, that's pretty quick in the municipal turnaround category, so.
It would, if we do it that fast, which I think we can,
That's very quick.
it'll be the fastest we've ever adopted zoning code amendment. Yeah.
By far.
Yeah. And then I just had the kind of standing committee for appointments, policy adoption. I know Joe went through it at the last meeting. I don't know if it's gonna be on for a resolution or that was kind of it. I'm not exactly sure. But I believe it's been vetted and we didn't hear any comments, so I think we're gonna move forward with it the way that it was written.
Planning board updates, recently completed the first item, 2475. That's a typo. I meant to delete that. I'm trying to save the bullet, you know, so. But, 0.301, Knott Street East TD Bank, we approved their signage at the last meeting. Market 32 approved their signage and site plan at the last meeting. Council Road, that's in Ingersoll Place, for a pavilion, near their pond for the residents there was approved. And, 2530 Balltown Road, the Chinese Fellowship Church up here in the corner. They're going to do a 777 square foot kitchen addition. And that was also approved, a good thing. And 3905 State Street, an application we've been trying to work with that we had a table with the applicant for a convenience store smoke shop. He has withdrawn that application, so that's going away. There's some concerns with parking there, and I don't think they did their homework before they came to the planning board or even decided to lease the property. Under active, just basically two of them are the same. 2546 Balltown and 1769 Union Street are both signage. The planning board issued a negative recommendation on both of those, and I believe they'll both be going to the zoning board of appeals on the June meeting, right, Lauren?
Yes.
We'll see what happens if they grant their area variance request. It would come back to the planning board for final approval. Under new projects, these are all pretty much new, and I don't have much data on them because Clark helps keep me in the loop. But Knott Street, Market 32, they want to add propane storage, and we have a resolution on modifying their site plan to approve that for Monday night. In fact, they've already advertised the sale of it and at the location and everything.
See that.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody got the flyer. It's right in there about the propane, and they neglected to have that in the original submittal, so I'm trying to help them to get through that quickly. For their on that street, again, PD Bank's coming back for some additional changes, landscaping, lighting, and paint. This year, Reformed Church and Troy's Connectivity Road looks like a tenant change to a new daycare provider, I guess you call it, Capital Kids Care. So we just review traffic flow and it's typical things we review, drop off and traffic congestion, that kind of thing. Mohawk Commons, 420 Balltown Road, Taco Bell is going to be converted to a community bank is a proposal with the second drive up window. I don't know where Taco Bell is going, but they're personally. But it should be okay as long as the traffic flows all right. And Union Street, this one's kind of got a good laugh on this one. 1747 Union Street. That's partially in this unit. There was a proposal for I think it was a smoking lounge or something like that that they're talking about, but never went through. Came back for an application for health and wellness juice bar. Clark sent me a juice bar. I said, juice bar, I gotta go over well, but health and wellness. So different type of juice bar.
From a smoking lounge, that's a one.
Yeah. So it looks like there still could be some rooms in there. I don't know what the intent is, so I don't have much information. We'll get more information on that. And just a carryover for River Road signage for Kelt's Farm, and that may be going away, right, Laura, based on the relocating a driveway for one of the homes that they're building, and that looks like that median will have to come out anyway for them to be able to access the road from their residence. So that'll go away, which is good for Ray, right? Plowing and
yeah, I think we'll still keep some kind of low growing bushes or something in there so that cars aren't tempted to drive over the median, because the median is meant to delineate that intersection so that cars aren't swinging in wildly from River Road. But yeah, it will help to not have the sign there.
in their lane.
Yep.
Well, how will that impact the plowing?
I think that they have to come up with a plan, but shrink the median back just a little bit. He was talking about like pushing it back 2 feet so that the clouds can get around it a little better.
And the wing too, right? Sign
The
we got
wing.
to worry about. A sign being the one.
And have those discussions been had with Ray as well?
Yeah, he had to be the final approval of where that final sign was gonna go. Or not go. It was actually, the conversation came up in relation to how a driveway is connecting in that area. Yeah.
And that's it for my last report. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And that brings us to the zoning board.
So the zoning board has 4 cases, as Kevin mentioned, 2 signs from the planning board and 2 residential area variances. The grants update, Rita said she couldn't be here, but she wanted people to know that she has a new intern who's going to help her with her and Jim McKinney with submitting for the grant applications for oops, I lost it. For the Lions Park. And her new intern's name is Shashank Salgam. And so he's gonna work on a package with her for the Lions Park train station. In the interim, I think the supervisor and I talked, Clark and I might put the deck out to bid just to see where it lands, just to see if our cost estimates are good. So I'll work with Clark on that. And then the critical pedestrian grant, I received the package that we had submitted previously under that grant. I wanted to make sure that if I submitted something, I wasn't submitting money that we'd already submitted for. And I'm glad I did, because they actually had submitted for some engineering and stuff like that. So I have the full submittal of what we previously submitted, and now I need to submit the rest to close that guy out. Desi's been good to work with. The only thing I need on that one is, I think, updated insurances possibly, that I'll work with Janet on.
Okay.
And then the linkage study grant, I had a recent meeting with the 2 Capital Region Transportation Council employees, and they're on board. We talked about what the scope of work is that we want to put out to bid for the planning grant, and talked about complete streets ideas for Route 7, and looked at some of the data. And so they're gonna, based on that conversation, put together a scope of work, which then we'll share with the town on the complete streets. And yeah, moving right along on that. So very thankful to them for choosing to do a linkage study in the town of Niskuna. For complete streets, we had a very good meeting with Rory Fluman, the Schenectady County manager. And we discussed a variety of projects that we have in the town of Niskuna on county roads. The big one that I want to bring up with you guys is that the county has currently a grant award to repave and restripe Grand Boulevard. They had a public outreach meeting, and they got mixed comments on parking versus bike lane, and decided to accommodate the parking and not the bike lanes. And so that was really frustrating to us, because we've adopted a complete streets policy. We've had a fair number of recommendations in the complete streets and on our priority list to have a bike lane on Grand Boulevard. And so we pushed back pretty hard on Schenectady County to reconsider. And the basic place that they landed was that they would reconsider if the town of Niskuna was willing to work on a resolution that basically said there's no parking on Grand Boulevard. And if they didn't need to accommodate both uses, then they were willing to put in the bike lane. So I have talked to the supervisor about that. I have talked to a variety of residents on Grand Boulevard who are in support of a bike lane. I believe I can bring them in. It will be, you know, it's always a balance of what people want on those roads. But I think in the long term, striping a parking lane on Grand Boulevard will not only change the aesthetics of Grand Boulevard and invite more parking, but it'll also make it very difficult to retrofit that road in the future for complete streets treatments. And it's such a connector street in town of Niskuna that I definitely want to recommend that the town, and I can put my name on everything and have all the comments and the concerns come to me. Definitely want to get a bike lane on Grand Boulevard. It was really hard for people when we removed the parking lot across from St. Joseph's. I had to do a lot of outreach. I had to do special signage. I did get a number of residents call who were upset about the removal of the parking lot, but we knew it was the right thing to do so that people could cross that intersection safely. and it's been okay. And so I really think that that's what we should do on Grand Boulevard.
You see, there's some car that still parks down there on the bike path.
Oh, I haven't seen it in a long time.
That's Civic.
Yeah, I was there a couple nights ago, yeah.
So, and my thought on that, I did see, I saw it once. I haven't seen it there in a long time, but if you guys are seeing it, it's probably still there. What I was thinking about that is just, maybe just getting, I could research the owner of that car and just send them another notice that says, just so you remember, that's not a place to park.
It's kind of hard to get in there. You gotta like really
You're,
look at it
no, you're driving over the crosswalk.
over the bike path.
Yeah, in order to get there. You're driving.
Yeah, I was,
off
I
the-
did double take and I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot of work.
Do a lot of people park on Grand Boulevard now?
Not a lot, no, and the concern is, it's kind of unclear whether you can even park there or not, so.
Yeah.
It's kind of unofficial parking that people use occasionally, but there's not a lot of it. But if you put a parking stripe down Grand Boulevard,
Yeah, people are gonna
Fighting it.
yeah. And,
Could be parking on one side and bike path on the other, or is that?
I mean, you probably could, the only issue with that is that it's, it's one way, so that would be, I think, hard for who's ever using the bike path.
So the city put a sidewalk in. Is that why you're not going with the bike lane?
No, they submitted a grant for a sidewalk, but they did not get that grant, so they're not putting a sidewalk in on Grand Boulevard. They're proposing a parking lane with a Sharrow painted in the driving lane, which we know is not really an accommodation for bicyclists. I mean, it helps. It's not terrible to put down a Sharrow, but it's definitely not considered like bike infrastructure that's gonna help people feel safe to bike on a road, so.
That's stupid.
Well, I mean, we can change it. They gave us an option and I'm happy to try it and I'm happy to continue discussions and I'm happy to go out to Grand Boulevard and gain support for it. I don't think we should just say, okay, the county decided to put a parking lane there and we have no.
Yeah,
control.
no, I actually think putting a bike lane in there would be a good step for the town, because it's an ideal place for that. And it would be a great demonstration if it worked well.
It's actually a step. It's frustrating that they can't do it themselves, but it's a step in the right direction. They never even used to consider bike lanes. And they're willing to consider a bike lane if essentially the town adopts a resolution that says we're putting in a bike lane and there shouldn't be no parking on Grand Boulevard.
But with electric bikes, it's certainly getting more popular. It's more needed. There's definitely more use for it.
Yeah, and for greenhouse gas emissions, health, safety, all kinds of things.
So electric, it's allowed in bike trails. People.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting, do you know this?
I mean, it depends on the definition, but the DMV has regulations that unless a municipality allows it, they're not allowed.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that.
it's even like the pedal assist, because there's
Well, that's what
actual
I'm saying, it
electric
depends
and
on
then
the
there's a pedal.
definition.
Okay, because I was
So
gonna
you
say
have to
there's
look at the
differences
DMV
even
regulations
within that.
that-
Yeah.
They need to be licensed by New York State, or do you have to register electric bikes? or-
Only if they go over 30 miles. an
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If they're capable of going over 30 miles an hour, they gotta be registered.
So that's treated like a motorcycle. Then.
Yeah. So
Oh,
a moped's gotta be registered.
And you'd think if you could get it up to, 25 without pedaling or something, you'd almost think that should be.
That would be terrifying, actually, but yeah.
At night, there's a lot on the bike path because they got the stone headlights and then the motorists. So people go ride at night.
It's surprising though. I was in Berlin last month, and it's amazing how they work traffic, bikes, which include electric bikes, electric scooters, and everything, and pedestrians, and it all works. But they do have designated bike lanes and designated bike lights, and everybody pays attention. And really complex intersections with trams and everything works well. So you can do it. You just have to really make an effort to do it.
Like lights as in traffic lights or lights?
Absolutely, yeah, so like you'll come to an intersection and there'll be, and this is in the city, so there'll be a cross section. There'll be bike lanes on either side, and then a tram will go through. So the sequence is the tram goes through first, then the bikes go, make the left-hand turn, and cars are still stopped, and then the cars go,
Oh,
and that's the way it works.
wow.
And I would say a lot of people bike. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
you know,
It's
probably
safer.
50.
right?
Well, it's safer
In that
because they
setup.
have that setup.
Yeah. So it encourages people to use it more.
Plus the price of gas is higher, so
Right.
it forces, you know,
Yeah. It is pretty amazing because you look at like some of the intersections, even around here, and you would say, how could that possibly work? But it certainly has been replicated in the city and it works well
Interesting.
with my 1 week is. You know, probably. Yeah.
Yes, I actually don't know, like, I know when we just did that no parking on Plum Street resolution, right?
It has to
Because
be in the code.
it has to be in the code.
So you
So you have to call
Yeah,
the public
local law.
hearing, local law. So maybe, at least for the agenda meeting, I know Jamie left, but are we okay if I put that as a tentative? Is it a call for a public hearing or just a discussion of the agenda?
We don't call for public hearings. to the agenda.
What would be the first step for putting an, just
We have to
introduction of a
introduce the
local law? I gotcha.
That happens at a regular meeting.
So could I add to the regular meeting, I can email it to you, Elena, the introduction of a local law for a bike lane on Ringover?
Is it a bike lane or is it no?
A
parking?
bike lane with no parking.
I have to look into the bike lane.
Okay.
But I know no parking has to be in the code.
Even with it being on a county road, probably, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We can't issue. Sections.
I don't know the exact words on that, but I'll just send you my. I don't want to steal Dart's thunder, so the Complete Streets submitted a update on the transportation chapter of comprehensive plan. I can talk about that later. And then in your packet, we have the Bike-a-Palooza coming up on June 15th. This is gonna be really fun. The Complete Streets, they do an event every 2 or 3 years. I think it's probably been 4 or 5 at this point, actually. Celebrating bicycles, teaching kids safety, giving away bike helmets, just generally getting people out there on their bikes and getting people excited about riding bikes in Niskayuna. Planning for Places is donating the helmets, so we'll have helmets for all ages. We'll set up a kids bike rodeo in the town hall parking lot. There's going to be live music from a high school band. The Mountain Bike Club in Niskayuna is offering free bike tune-ups. So if your bike has been in your garage for a while and you can just bring it over and they'll try and do little things they can fix. Uncle Rico's is donating pizza and Stewart's is donating ice cream. There'll be a mini bicycle loop where kids can follow a police officer around Orchard Park and back down here. And then there's going to be a 3.5-mile guided bike loop across the St. Joseph crosswalk and then across the Kelts Farm crosswalk and back. So it's kind of like a demonstration of the new crossings that we have, and it should be fun. It's hilly. I'm always a big participator, but I'm not actually sure I can do that one, but probably lots of people can do that one. And it should be really, really fun. So any way that you can get the word out, please do.
good flyer. Who put that
Yeah.
together?
Yes, Tess Healy's daughter. She came up with the name too.
I know, I love that.
Okay, so that is Complete Streets. They have been really hard. Tree Council, their pilot planting program for trees is going really well. Jeff Corbin and I met initially with owners. Jeff has been going out after first contact and kind of regularly working with them to figure out where they want their trees. And 7 trees are going in, as far as I know, today or Monday or Tuesday. And that's really exciting. So we're gonna try and chip away at the tree planting list we have for trees that were lost. And then Tree Council is working on a nighttime training for people on tree pathogens and tree care. We'll have a DEC forester that'll come, and then we'll just invite people who want to learn more about taking care of trees and what's happening with trees. So that date will be to be announced.
What I would suggest is we should definitely get that on the town website, and we should also advertise it through the CAC.
Oh, the tree training?
Tree training.
Yeah, okay, when I pick a date, we can do that.
Okay, the Conservation Advisory Council, there's been an awful lot going on. The NRI, Natural Resource Inventory, we had our first field trip with Jim, who was the consultant for that. It was well attended. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it, but they viewed several areas in this unit, and that's the first half. We're gonna have 3 field walkthroughs to get the community involved. This was the spring one. We're gonna have another one in the summer and another one in the fall. But it's really great to get that kicked off, and I think there's a lot of excitement, not only in the committee, but also in the community as well. I would highly encourage you to go on one. It's kind of interesting to walk through an area with a naturalist. I remember for phase 1, I walked through the former landfill with a naturalist, and I was stunned at wildlife there. I walked into the walk, and it was just a old landfill, but when I walked out, it was like unbelievable how much wildlife and fauna was there. So it's definitely a worthwhile thing.
We don't have any dates for the summer one yet, do we?
We are
Yeah, we
meeting
do.
on
Tuesday,
Tuesday,
yeah.
and we'll set the dates for the summer one. But Ashok knows that it's gonna be late August, I think, or August. Well, I think it said late August and then late October.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Greenhouse gas initiative, that contract has, or that effort has 2 phases. The first one is to just do a greenhouse inventory with the town, and then the second half is to set goals, greenhouse reduction goals. The first half is in progress, and the consultant is working with Laura in the planning department and primarily getting all the stats. So we can do the inventory part. The second part, he will be more actively meeting with the CAC. We did have an initial meeting with him a couple meetings ago, and we'll be setting goals for the town as far as greenhouse gas reductions and stuff like that. There was a lot of good ideas from the time in the past. We're working on the 3rd round of the clean energy community submittal, and there has been some training approved, energy training approved with that. And another item that we're working on is a checklist for plan reviews, site plan reviews. And part of the idea behind that is when a developer comes in and talks to us, we basically ask them to consider a series of climate initiatives. Like, for example, did you consider putting solar panels? Have you considered using, native plants, wildlife corridors, pesticide-free and stuff like that? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to come up with a comprehensive list of all the things that we would like, and then basically say, hey, this is the benefit. This is where it's being done in this unit. Would you consider doing that? So these would be the asks. So rather than having the developer come to our meeting and say, oh, I didn't realize I could do this, or I hadn't considered this, it's our hope that they would receive it up front. And then when they came to the planning board meeting or the CAC meeting, we could have a discussion and they would be
Excellent.
aware of that. And then the final thing that I thought was really great as well was we had Sarah Sock from Ecos come and talk about a program that they started where they're trying to get people within Schenectady County to set up pollinator gardens. And they've worked with a nursery and they have a kit. So basically you get a kit and they provide all the equipment, or not the equipment, but all the supplies that you need to set up this pollinator garden, which is 10 by 10. And there's actually one at the town pool in Niskayuna as a demonstration, and they have a sign there, or they soon to put a sign there with a QR code. This fits really in well with some of the initiatives that the CAC has done, particularly the climate smart part of that committee. So I'm hoping that there'll be some real synergy there, and we will be able to work together on this and team up. So it's really great. She talked to us for about 45 minutes at that meeting, so went extremely well, I thought. And,
So would that be at, is Hewitt's isn't it? Hewitt's isn't around it.
no, it's not Hewitt's. It was a,
Fagans maybe?
So it's called Just
Just-
Ecology just because they have so much,
they're
knowledge.
they're knowledgeable, but I think the plan that Ecos has is to expand this out. This is just a pilot program right now.
Okay.
And what they want to do is they want to expand it out and have as many nurseries as possible offer this program. Yeah, there is an expense. It's not, you have to make a commitment as a resident, to buy the stuff.
Yes.
But what they've done is they've sort of laid it out and
Easy.
picked plants that are likely to grow, particularly in clay soils. So, it's tailored towards Schenectady soils. Can be problematic. And then the final thing we did in the Conservation Advisory Committee, we sort of, Laura talked about a little bit, is this short-term rental. Sort of looking at the code and we've asked the members to provide comments.
Do you or Laura want to mention the meeting with GE? That's kind
Oh,
of nice. Great.
Sorry, I meant it. So we have a meeting scheduled for the 21st with GE to talk about how we can partner with GE to basically get them involved with the NRI and some of the other projects that the CAC is working for. This is an initial meeting. We're very excited about it, and it's a direct result of the planning board putting that in the recommendation for approval for the building that they wanted to build. So we're thankful for the planning board to do that, and looks like it's going to be well attended by people that can actually make things move,
Sure.
do things. So I'm very
That's
excited
great.
about it.
Me too.
Excellent.
Thank you, Clark. Sure.
Clark was keeping the timeline in his head, and the GE attorney that we work with, Charles Dumas, has been the one that's coordinating all of that. And thank you to him. He didn't. Neither of them lost track of it. It's been important.
Yeah, that was really good.
Do you want
That's
to talk
excellent.
about architectural review board, Clark?
Sure, really quickly, they're mainly focused on working with Rita and the Lions Park train station, kind of the main effort right now. They've been doing a lot of background work to gather information. They're now really pursuing a comprehensive quote, if you will, for working on the whole train station. So one of the architectural review board members recently did an inspection of the under support structure of the roof, which was a brave soul. She stuck her head up in the attic of this kind of cobweb nested station, right? So they may do a more formal evaluation of that because the architect we're working with, Jim McKinney, has some concerns about what they saw. So they might get an actual professional evaluation of that or a write-up on that. They're also looking at their next step is to look in the basement and just make sure they have a good assessment of the foundation, which was another brave move. None of them want to do it, but they know they should do it, so they want to look in the basement. So they're looking at the whole price tag, if you will, to work on getting the whole structure in better shape. So, it's a nice project where Rita is a part of the architectural review board and the other architects are enjoying working on that project.
Great.
Comprehensive Plan Committee, we have gone through the open space. We've reworked some of the objectives and stuff like that. So we need to basically make a new draft of that and for final review. We met with Complete Streets and they presented a draft of the Complete Streets section of the plan. It was actually very, very well written. The text was very good. We spent the balance of the meeting talking about what type of objectives should be put in that area and what type of initiatives. So there's a little more work to be done there. I think there's going to be a lot of back and forth on that, trying to get the right level in that plan. There's no short of ideas of what we want to do, but we got to strike a balance there. So we're working on that. We finally finished our survey with the town and we got over 500 responses, which is pretty good in my experience for getting responses from a town when you just ask for information. So I was pretty pleased with that. Really intrigued about the open-ended questions because we've gotten a lot of interesting and good results with that. So I'm really interested in tabulating that.
I forgot what I did in that comment section.
Yeah.
Something.
We're parking on your street.
The final public outreach, we've had 3 and we have a 4th one that we want to have. And what we tried to do is we tried to space them out throughout the town. So that's going to be on June 18th at the Glen Eddy. And once we complete that, then we'll have all the public input that we will need. And then the final thing is we are still hoping to get an RFP in place to sort of help us across the finish line.
Very good. Excellent. And on Glen Eddy, June 18th, how are we notifying that's going out to the website, I imagine? Is there any?
It's going to be on the website and Laura was going to send out some calls.
Excellent. Good.
Today. Yep.
Okay, the building department.
So Elena and Clark and I have been working on enforcement for 3410 State Street, Upstate Guns and Ammo, for their pod that's been there for too long, and they didn't move forward with their site plans. He had submitted a site plan to go back to the planning board. He talked to him at the last meeting. It sounded like David DiRapino convinced him to go with a full edition again. But in the meantime, it probably still does need to move through enforcement. So there's going to be kind of a 2-pronged path for that project. One is to get it back before the planning board because all the approvals expired. And then the second is to continue with enforcement. It's because there's no wiggle room on the code. We've been working really hard on high grass complaints. Tom's been bringing our part-time building inspector, Michael Auer, back out with him. They had cited 30 properties for high grass. And after the sanitation, they're down to 4. So that's pretty good.
How did we reconcile that with the no mow May?
So no mow May is actually evolving. They've kind of been monitoring it and letting your lawn grow as tall as it possibly can and then cutting it all back on June 1st is not actually that beneficial for pollinators. The idea behind No Mow May is that you leave the flowers and the nectar and the food sources up for the pollinators so that they're not starving in the spring. But if you leave your grass like that and then you cut it all in June, you're removing all the habitat like all at once. So it's what they're calling it now is, I think, high mow May or something. So what they want you to do, and I do this in my own yard, is like still mow in May, but mow every 2 or 3 weeks and set your mower as high as possible. And even if you have like a patch of dandelions or a patch of buttercups or something, you mow around that. Leave as much nectar as you can, but don't let it get to be like an actual field where all the critters move in and then cut it all down because it's really bad for them. So yeah, it's changing, it's evolving. You want to keep as much pollination out for the pollinators as they're waking up, but you do want to mow so that it's kind of a standard type of habitat for them.
But you're mowing significantly higher, so it's not a putting green.
Yes,
You
Yeah.
want to get like
on a
3.5, 4
5
inches. My lawnmower
Oh, no.
doesn't go any higher than that. No.
They recommend 5 to 6 inches.
Yeah, I was surprised the other night when you said your mower goes to 6.
Mine does go to 6 inches, but it's funny because it's all the way at the max. And if you hit a rock or something, it like pops out of 6 inches and then goes into 5.
I would think at 6 inches right here.
That's pretty good.
Not with the blade, like with the actual mower. So it's okay. Like, we're happy to work with people who want to do no mow May, and we're happy to let them mow little paths and stuff, but you do still need to be. But so down to 4, that's not too bad. And then Trish was able to catch Elena in the hallway the other day, and we've got, I think, vacant home notices that are ready to go out. Oh, they already went out. So good work, you guys. Thank you for doing that. Planning department. Clark, do you want to talk about the drainage analysis work that we've been doing, or Matt can Probably you.
Matt and I are working together, if he, whenever he gets a request for someone to kind of be added on the hotspot list, we've added them. So I think we have 4 or 5 properties on the hotspot list. We're learning a lot about, I would call it like a really comprehensive drainage analysis for the town. As we've mentioned, we have this report from 1991 that we're looking at updating. We had a couple meetings with a consulting firm called Warren Curran that I would describe as a very high-end, really comprehensive firm that could do a very thorough but very high-end / costly analysis of the whole town. So, you know, that was a good learning experience. We've got that as a data point. I think we're going to look at some other firms that are maybe more in the mid-range, just to have a full spectrum that we could recommend to people, and then just plan where we want to go from there. One of the main people, Brian Afkarian on Regent Street, reached out to me again earlier this week for an update on, you know, where we are and where we're going. So I have a call scheduled with him for this afternoon, just to give him a general update and show him that we're still focused on it, but it's still very much a fact finding, information finding, learning. A little bit more about, you know, maybe even some smaller incremental improvements that we can make, like even, you know, it was mentioned, even curbing and things to just help with the runoff.
Very good. Yeah, that's a big undertaking.
It's a big undertaking, and the challenge for everyone will be identifying what's the appropriate solution.
And that 91 report is so old, it's probably not as useful as it, you know, it's, I mean, the construction that's gone on since 91 has really had to mess up that drainage analysis, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And obviously technology has changed so drastically. Like we had a meeting with this one consulting firm, and they showed some of the capability that they have of what they can do. And it's really slick, you know, but it all comes at a certain price tag.
Computer analysis,
Yeah.
visually and everything.
Yeah. So good. We're learning a lot, and we'll keep reporting out, and then, you know, collectively everyone can take it from there.
Excellent.
We're not alone in it. Like the reason that we found the Woodward and Curran is because the New York State Floodplain and Stormwater Managers Association had them as a presentation at the New York State Floodplain Managers and Stormwater Managers Conference. And like if you talk to a lot of different towns, like a lot of them are struggling with it. And we talk about it all the time, like high intensity, short duration storms, different timing for precipitation. It's all kind of changing. And then also like, you know, not expecting, like there's, you know, when the temperature gets warmer and there's more water in the atmosphere that can get drawn out during these storms. So, you know, now some of the old aging infrastructure is undersized for some of this. So it's not just a Niskayuna issue, it's true of everywhere. So when we talk to these people, we're trying to learn what they're doing, what other towns are doing, and what will work the best for us.
Very good.
Do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think the old study is a good baseline to build off of. Because, you know, it was pretty comprehensive. But I think the happy medium is going to be somewhere in between what Clark's been looking with that other company and something a little bit more reasonable, broad. Because I mean, they can model right down to the water drops, basically water droplets, and whether you have to look at cost versus benefit. On that, but it's really very interesting what they can provide. And I think Clark was even saying maybe in some certain areas where it's very critical, do the extra analysis. We'll have to see what the cost is.
They haven't gotten us any quotes though yet, have they?
No, but I'll fill you in.
Okay. And I just wanted to thank Clark. He's really taken this on. He's being the bridge between the planning and the engineering world on the drainage.
Mm.
Well, on anything really, but especially on the drainage. And he's the one that's moving it along. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to help gather some information, shoot it Matt's way, shoot it Lauren's way.
It's something else too, drainage related, MS4. That's more water quality, but it's all tied into drainage. There's a new MS4 permit that was put into effect at the beginning of this year. And, part of that, we had to redo our stormwater management plan for the town. So I was talking to Clark and trying to see if we can work together between engineering and planning, because it does affect both departments, and try to, between myself, Dan and Clark, work on reshaping that. Our existing plan is from 2010, and we're now 1 or 2 permits beyond when that was developed. So that's another thing that's going to be put in work. But I just want to put it out there because they start, some of the new requirements start taking effect in July, but it's ongoing, and we just keep updating all of our information, mapping and plans and things like that.
Yeah, and we should look at that because we actually have a utility section of the comprehensive plan. So if you get far enough along on the utility plan that it has some solid recommendations, we should make sure that those are included right into the utility chapter of the comprehensive plan, especially if in the end we need to get some grants or something to help with the utilities. I know the comprehensive plan committee, I have it as a running list thing to do, but they wanted to meet with you and the highway superintendent and just do the tours of the facilities to see what they need. They did that in 2013 and made, I'm pretty sure actually 2013, they, there was,
We got,
but there was like, that was the recommendation to upgrade them.
Certain things I'd like to see in the
yeah, no, so,
Oh, wait,
Where-
did you want to add anything before you
I'm
go?
not gonna add it.
Okay.
we get to that part, we certainly would invite you to our meetings, but we should work on field trips. The things, putting eyes on stuff really helps, with the plan, so. And it's certainly not our swim lane.
Okay. So we're losing people. Still working on the process maps. Authorize the concept design for Council Road sidewalk. I moved the Winnie Road easement and the easement on 31 East Street down to here. I'll just work on those as I can. I didn't get any reports from Metroplex from Dr. Horton, but I can say that Metroplex are trying pretty hard to get us some nice development in the Commerce Parks on Hillside Ave. So I'm thankful for them always to be thinking of us. I know Elena has been working pretty hard on her on the lawsuit for the properties adjacent to CVS, and I appreciate all her hard work on that. And again, Rita had to work today, but shared that she's working with her new intern and ARB and Clark on the Lions Park. Also, I stood next to her for a little while at NISCA Day. They had a nice table of outreach, of historic community outreach to the residents. They had some videos and stuff running, and her and Ben Spears were there for the whole time. So working away and doing good outreach, and that's very much appreciated.
The thing like that is on Council Road, I did have an Ingersoll board meeting. There are seniors that do walk up and they have to go out into the road to get to the Hannaford Plaza. So if you could keep that on the screen and maybe move it over to Complete Streets, if that's the right spot to prioritize it, they would welcome that.
And it's really taken a long time.
They would welcome it.
Yeah. I mean, I think Julie McDonald got that ball rolling like.
I
Well, it's part of the
know,
approval for Hummingbird Manor.
Yes,
That's
I
how far
think
back.
you're right about that.
No, it was.
that's how it was, I remember that, yeah.
Wow, yeah, before me, it was 15, 16 years ago, right?
And I remember when the Ingersoll went into that particular location, CAC was very concerned about having a sidewalk there for multi-use staff, so.
The main holdup is the culvert and the swale that we gotta put in on the private property, right?
Well, I'd say the main holdup is it's an expensive piece of sidewalk. So even the engineering was more than we have in our escrow. Our
It's
escrow is very
expensive,
small.
why though? Because of some drainage issue,
Because of
right?
drainage, I think you need, probably because of the drainage, and you've talked to the landowner about this, you actually probably need an easement or even just a taking of that front property in order to be able to fit everything there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, the survey, the drainage, the heavy lifts, the sidewalk itself is, pretty standard, but where it goes and how it, he has said too, or at least this is my memory, I've not talked to him, but I think he said this to you, that if the sidewalk was to go in front of him, he'd also like shielding from it, so, which is fair, like if he's gonna be
Yeah.
working with us to, give us an easement to fit the sidewalk, but he doesn't want it to be so open to his property. Landscaping is a good way to mitigate that concern, but everything comes with a cost. It's gonna be an expensive check on the sidewalk.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you. Is there anything further for the good of the order? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And we are adjourned. Kevin, I'm very saddened that this is the last meeting I have.
Yeah, I'll bug you sooner or later, something.
That is good to hear.
I'll send Betsy over to take care of it.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.